Does the format of feedback on students' writing drafts really matter? Let's figure it out both from a student and a faculty perspective. By comparing handwritten versus electronic feedback from instructors, researchers Johnson, Stelmack, and Barthel found that there was indeed a significant difference on feedback quality and student performance. The way that they did this is they used a University of Minnesota Intro to Research Methods course. Their research methods course is structured very similarly to ours here at App State, where there is a senior faculty member who is in charge of the 200 plus student large lecture, and then grad students who are in charge of the small group labs. When we say instructor from here on out, we're referring to the grad students because they are the ones who do all of the grading. Over the duration of the course, students are required to design and complete an experiment and write up the accompanying APA-style report. Throughout the semester, there are 3 optional due dates where students can submit drafts of this APA-style report and get substantial feedback from their instructors. The researchers Johnson and colleagues required in fall of 2016 that the students print out and hand in a hard copy of their first draft if they chose to submit one. That way that the instructors could provide handwritten feedback. The subsequent drafts were digitally uploaded and given electronic feedback. In the spring of 2017, all 3 drafts were digitally uploaded and given electronic feedback. The researchers chose 20 random papers from the hard copy condition and 20 random papers from the digital condition to compare the comments of the instructors. The comments were coded along 2 dimensions, which they didn't really name, but each dimension had 3 categories. The first dimension comprises of observation, rewrite, or rewrite with explanation, and the second dimension of instructor comments comprises of content, mechanics, or both. Students are given a grade out of a 32-point grading scale on their draft, and then this is compared to their grade on the final draft, also out of 32 points. The researchers found that there are differences between the quantity and quality between handwritten and electronic feedback. The instructors were much more likely to comment electronically, so there was a higher frequency of comments, and the comments also seemed to be longer. They on average were over 10 words, which is what the researchers denoted as a long comment. When looking at the students' grades, the feedback also seemed to benefit the students more on the electronic, but only by a point. You can see on the graph on the side, this is the score, the average score of the 20 that they chose on the first draft compared to the average score of the 20 that they chose on their final draft. And the electronic feedback is coming out just a little bit ahead on the handwritten feedback. So this means that theoretically, students and faculty are both benefiting from using electronic feedback because it allows faculty and instructors unlimited space. You don't have to write in the margins. You don't have to like circle and squeeze things in, and you have the ability to just click exactly where you want and write as much as you want, and there's more to say. So that's beneficial on both sides. There are things to think about, though. During this study, only about 25% of students in each semester even submitted drafts because, remember, they're optional. So theoretically, the growth that we are seeing is only from students that are motivated to grow anyway. So we have no idea how the students that are not quite as motivated would react to these differing types of feedback, or if they would even react to the feedback at all. The study by Dungenhauer, and colleagues proves that just the act of writing drafts improves writing in general, whether you get feedback or not. There's also the fact that the researchers did not collect any demographic data on students or the instructors, so there's no information on how culture or internet availability or socioeconomic status might be a moderator for these effects. And also, they point out that the change in scores across drafts with electronic feedback was larger than the change in handwritten feedback. But when looked at by people outside of the instructors in the study, these improvements were not seen objectively in the writing. And there's also the fact that there were, I think in 2016, there were 11 grad students grading because there were 11 lab things. And then in the following semester, I think there were 12, but they're completely different grad students. So there's also there is a rubric that they're using. So theoretically, there are objective measures, but due to the fact that the researchers are looking at comments specifically, the individual differences on how much a grad student / instructor would be willing to write on a comment is something to take note of. And the fact it's different grad students in each semester, we don't know what their purview is as far as writing longer, or if they even have like a good background in syntax. Like there's a lot of individual differences that have not been considered. Also, the researchers mentioned in Stelmach, one of the lead researchers for this, one of his older studies, they point out that students show marginal and heavy increases in writing quality, but only when judged by the person who initially graded. So in this study, as an aside, they had instructors grade and then regrade, like in the study we're talking about. And then they had other people come in and compare the two drafts. And the outside people who did not give the initial feedback said that there was not an improvement overall in writing, the same way that those who had given the feedback and were more invested in the writing said that there was. And then you can get into the actual design of the study. I think they said they collected in the first semester about 74, 75 hard copy drafts. And then in the second semester, there were, I think, 60 electronic drafts submitted first thing, maybe a little more. Either way, those seem similar, but they didn't specify when they were choosing from the electronic drafts whether they were choosing from only the first submission in 2017 or if they were just choosing all electronic submissions. Because if you remember correctly, in 2016, only the first draft was required to be a hard copy, and then the subsequent drafts were uploaded digitally. So theoretically, because they did not specify, we don't know if their randomly selected electronic grades and drafts are from the same sort of condition. We don't know if it's the first drafts from 2017 or if they're choosing from all of those. And as pointed out earlier, it is completely different graders from one semester to the next. So there is a little bit of questionable, the generalizability is questionable. And then also the most encouraging data that they reported was actually anecdotal. They asked the students and the instructors their personal opinions, and everyone that they interviewed expressed that they really enjoyed the online and digital feedback more. The graders noted the unlimited space and the ability to highlight things, which you can do in person as well, but like they noted that specifically, and then the students noted that they enjoy it because it's easier to access and they don't have the possibility of losing it. So everybody likes digital feedback, but empirically it is not really as improved as it is people just telling the researchers we like digital feedback. But overall, overall they noted for sure that there was 100% a notable difference in the feedback, but they could not note whether it was objectively improving or not. And then here's my references.